But I'm going to move us on to our next project. So again, this is another agent-based simulation project, two this year, a sport for choice. And we've got Dom, Luke, and Sam, a real collaboration actually across organisations within the cohort, looking at using agent-based simulation for making every contact count, or MECC training. So over to you.
Hello. That should be showing now.
Yeah, that's come through okay.
Great. Hi, I'm Dom. We also have Sam, who is from Somerset FD, and I'm from MECC in the Northeast. And Luke also helped us with this, and you've already met Luke, so I won't go into much too much detail on him. We also obviously have help from Sammy and Dan, and all the people from Pencord, and a couple of the project managers from MECC who help them run some of the other aspects of this project. So Sam.
Thanks, Tom. So MECC, it stands for Making Every Contact Count. Essentially, it's a behaviour change approach used in North East and North Cumbria, and widely used across healthcare, social care and government services. And the aim is to change people's behaviour that has a positive effect on their health and well-being of those individuals. And it does this by taking and using everyday conversations with those individuals and support them to help them make healthier choices. So from your normal healthcare settings, so GPs, could even be like into job centres. So the real key to this is every interaction is an opportunity to improve someone's well-being. However, MECC interventions are hard to study. They are diverse, informal, and spread across different settings, which makes it difficult to measure their true impact. So the context of this project is to take a simulation approach and to provide a simple and flexible tool to explore how MECC works in different contexts and its impact on a population. So overall, to help build an evidence to support and improve MECC training to staff in these different settings. So the requirement for the tools to be simple and simple to use and interact with, and also be flexible to adapt to a wide range of different settings. So as it's already been mentioned, we've taken on an agent-based simulation approach. So this type of simulation focusing on individuals or agents and how they behave. So rather than starting with a system-wide assumptions, we're looking at agent-based simulation lets us define like the simple rules for individuals and how they act. So when the simulation is run, you see what emerges at the population level and the patterns and the behaviours from that. So our model has many parameters that can affect how the agents behave, like the likelihood of different events and different starting conditions. The agents then move through the simulation step by step with their outcomes shaped by the chance and interactions that they have. So we have built this tool using Python, and the packages that we are using are MECC, which is the agent-based simulation package, and Streamlit as an interface to the model as a web app.
Yeah, so now I'm going to talk a bit about how we've developed it. So it started off actually as part of the HSMA course. We had a hack day. So me, Sam, and Luke developed kind of a generic model and smoking cessation model as a kind of proof of concept prototype, which was then developed a little bit. And I took it with the two Richards I mentioned earlier, to a regional MECC strategy group, which is like 30, 40 people in a room from all the different organizations within MECC, and we tried to like prioritize themes and pathways and try and start map out some of these pathways so we can model them later. And we took the top 3 of those. So there were alcohol, mental health, and smoking cessation. And you notice we'd already kind of done a smoking cessation model, but but the plan from that was then to do alcohol, because that was a well-defined area, as in it was quite simple. Whereas mental health pathways are way too complicated for the kind of initial thing we're doing. And smoking cessation, basically everyone already agrees from in the literature that smoking cessation is great. We should do as much as possible. It's one of the highest impact health interventions you can do, stopping someone smoking. So we then took that information, we built an alcohol intervention model in May, and presented it back to the regional team for feedback. So there's like that constant feedback between us and the people who are going to potentially use this. And we're going to now give you a brief overview of what that looks like. So there's two types of agents, quite simple agent-based model. There's people and there's services. People can visit services, and services then have a chance of performing an intervention or not based on that visit. Based on whether they're MECC trained or not changes the probability that that intervention will occur. And we can change it so with MECC training, the intervention can be more frequent and or more efficacious. So those are parameters we can alter. There's also including a thing where basically if you're going to different services or the same service multiple times having multiple interventions, they can have an additive effect depending on whether they're repeated or not. That was something we're discussing with the stakeholders. And something that again came out of the conversation was discussing with stakeholders was whether or not there would be a decay in efficacy of the training. So basically you give the training and then over time the chance of people making those MECC interventions decreases. And the way it works is that the model is run twice at the same time, one with the MECC training and one without. So then you can compare, like, okay, well, based on these parameters, which we think the MECC is doing, how much effect is it going to have? And now I'm going to try and do a live demo. So this is the landing page of the app. It kind of explains what it looks like. We're calling it toy because it's not a finished model. It's not the complete answer. It is currently in a toy stage, so like playing around with, working on what's good for it. And so from this, you can set a bunch of parameters. So this does include this kind of stages for change model, which is a behavioural model, which we're investigate using at one point based on suggestions from stakeholders. But again, they've come back to us and said, actually, the evidence for that isn't good enough. So we want to come back and look about removing that. So that's the next version of the model. So this is possibly a bit more complicated than the current version we're working on. So you can look it through the pathway exactly, and then look at the model. So you can see the parameters you set. So I'm just going to take the default ones for now. So you can see there's a bunch of different places people can go, different chances, and different chances of moving through the system. So people can run the simulation quite quick. So you can, rather than being live demoed. Okay. So you can see on the left here, there's the version without MECC training and then with MECC training. You can see that the sort of this pre-contemplation, as in haven't decided to make a change people, does go down over time, sort of regression to the mean. But then the people who've taken some action to make a change in their life has gone up. But there's a much bigger difference with our MECC version. You can sort of see that there's, okay, well, we've had contacts in each of the services, they're about the same. But it's the proportion of those contacts which have interventions are much higher. So the GP practice and the pharmacy don't have that MECC intervention because they seem to be making those changes anyway. Again, that's a parameter you can change. And this is the sort of probability of making interventions. So this is the effect of that training wearing off, basically, whereas it doesn't wear off in the GP practice or pharmacy, which kind of leads to this kind of flattening curve in the interventions. There are some results you can look at, whether or not there's a significant chest test of whether they're running exactly the same way. And then you can download a report in case you want to save that for later. So there's a brief look at that as a model. So I'm just going to switch back to presentation. Now it's going to be annoying because I opened it not in a new window. Okay. Okay. And now, so a bit about the wider impact. So we've had a lot of interaction with the regional MECC team, who are very excited about the model and about using it. It's still in the prototype stage, and so that's why I kind of described it as a toy, and we are trying to find the correct ranges of variables to use to have defaults in. So, but it can now be shown at least what minimum level of MECC intervention you'd need to be able to produce an effect, as in you can say, actually, well, with this version of parameters, you get no benefit from MECC, and there's no significant difference. You can set it to find that minimum variable. There has been a lot of interest from those other organizations, part of that regional strategy group, that want to use agent-based modeling for MECC or other things. So we've definitely had interest from those. Remains to be seen how that's going to work. And kind of like building with the open source aspect of MECC, we asked Sammy a question during the hackathon. It's like, we assumed that you can just have a quarter, or the reporting software we use that just works with Streamlit, which is the app we used for the presentation. It was like, yeah, that just works, right? And it was like, no, it does not just work. So Sammy went away and developed a way for them to work together really nicely and simply, which will be useful for basically other HSMake projects and probably beyond into the wider open source community, which is, I think, is really good in terms of like what Sam was like saying, oh, we assume these work together. It doesn't, but we can make it work, which I think is a great way of working. Sam, you can talk about next steps?
So the next steps for this project. So I'm going to write up a board paper to deliver to the regional MECC strategy group. Using test cases to compare the simulation output that we have from this against actual outcomes of real world examples. Specifically for the app, have a data report that outputs once the model runs.
Which we have already kind of developed.
We do. As you can see from the app itself, it has many, many different parameters. So allowing to have those exported and imported to have specific runs if you wanted to go back and revisit them. So create a version of the model which takes in parameters from randomized control trials. So that would just be another version of the app. There has been some work already done on a Monte Carlo version of the model, where it's run many different times to better understand variability. The services that you saw in the app, to make those just customizable, so you can then set those parameters to something that fits your organization. And also we're looking at investigating the possibility of writing this up as a publishable paper. So personal impact from this, NHS and ECS has written up a case study based on this work, and now agent-based simulation is now part of a service that is offered to other organizations. So yeah, the whole developing of this app as an open source project has been a very valuable and positive experience, with the output being now a tool that can be available for wider use. The skills that we've picked up on this project and the program as a whole have already been applied to many other projects. And yeah, definitely highly recommend this program, and just want to extend our thanks to Dan and Sammy, who are fantastic trainers. Thank you. Any questions in the chat?
Fantastic. Thank you very much to both of you. And finish slightly ahead of schedule, so brilliant. Thank you very much. What a fantastic, really interesting area. Again, really fantastic engagement that you've had there. It's brilliant to see the kind of trickle down of the impact of just engaging with this kind of stuff and being aware of what this kind of stuff can do and the impact that's had at an organisational level and being able to ask new questions. So yeah, really fantastic to see, and I can't wait to see how this this app continues to develop. Even at the toy stage, you're getting some really interesting stuff out of it. So brilliant to see. Thank you very much.